will not be on your top 10 of favorites that Pastor Wise preached, I'm sure. The reason I know that is because it's not one of my top favorites. This sermon was tough on me in preparing it. And I want to preach to you this morning the subject of excuses. We have all kinds of funny ideas of what it means to be a Christian, don't we? Some of us just have the feeling, we sit here, we come sit on a pew. Somebody say, "What are you doing?" "Oh, I'm just sitting here being a Christian." There's no sitting around being a Christian, folks. I'm here to tell you. The Bible said that Jesus came to seek and to save that which was lost. Jesus himself said, "My Father worked here hitherto, and I work." He said he came to do the works of him that sent him, the works of the Father. Being a Christian is full of action. Okay, it's full of doing. Now, let me make this clear. Being saved, all I have to do to be saved is trust Jesus Christ as my Savior. But to be a Christian, which is to go a step further than that word Christian meaning Christ-like, then I've got to take on the characteristics of Christ to be like Him, to be Christ-like. And Christ went around doing, the Bible says, if everything He had done had been written down, the world could not contain the books that it would take to write it all down. So the Christian life is, folks, it's a life of service. Jesus said, He said, "I didn't come to be ministered to. I came to minister. I came to serve. Came to do something." Well, this old Christian life, when I wasn't saved, I was out partying, having a good time. Then I got saved. Well, I hate those kind of testimonies. Makes it sound like everything's downhill after getting saved. Well, I'm just kind of bored being a Christian. Then you're not a Christian. You might be saved, but the life of a Christian is a life like Christ. It's a life of, getting with it. It's a life of involvement. It's a life of doing, and by the way, that's where you're going to find your satisfaction. Okay? That's where you're going to find your joy. That's where you're going to find your contentment. That's where you're going to find fulfillment, is in doing, in living the Christian life, living out that salvation, so to speak. I'm saved, but now I want to live that out. I want to do what comes along with being a Christian. I want to serve. It's having the other person in mind. We have all kinds of strange ideas, though, about what it means to be a Christian. Well, somebody will say, "Well, yeah, I'm a Christian because I don't hurt people." Well, that's good. Praise the Lord. I don't do bad things to people. Man, that's great, wonderful. But what are you doing? Don't tell me what you're not doing necessarily. Tell me what you're doing. We have this idea of Christianity as a life of what you cannot do. Oh, if you're going to be a Christian, then you can't do this, 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 and this. Well, it's not so much that you can't do it. You ought not even want to do it. Amen. I don't want to break the Lord's heart. But more than being a life of what you can't do, the Christian life is a life of what I can do. How I can serve. How I can get involved. It's an exciting thing. But we come up with all kinds of excuses, don't we? You remember that song? First time I heard it, I guess I was about 9th or 10th grade. This guy came to our school. I went to Northside Christian Academy in Charlotte under Dr. Jack Hudson. This guy, Tim Kaufman, came and sang, "Excuses, excuses, you hear them every day. Now the devil, he'll supply them if from church you stay away. When people come to know the Lord, the devil always loses. So to keep those folks away from church, he offers them excuses." And then it'll go through a wide variety of excuses. And boy, here's the thing. The devil doesn't even have to offer us the excuses. We come up with them on our own, don't we? And boy, we have heard, I'm sure every one of us have heard some wild ones. In Luke chapter 14, I'm going to read verses 16 through 24. Let me say as I preach this is not a sermon that you take and say, "Boy, I can't wait to tell this one to so-and-so. They need it." And whenever somebody says something, you say, "Oh, remember what preacher said, excuses, excuses." It's not something you take to beat somebody else over the head with. This is something you take to examine yourself. All right? Which is, by the way, I don't know. I think the Bible speaks more about examining ourselves than it does examining the other person. You see, because until I'm right, I have a hard time leading somebody else to be right. So use this. I want you to use it to examine yourself. In chapter 14, verse 16 through 24, the Bible says, Then said he unto him, a certain man made a great supper, and bade many, and sent a servant at supper time to say to them that were bidden, Come, for all things are now ready. And they all with one consent began to make excuse. The first said unto him, I've bought a piece of ground, and I must needs go and see it. I pray thee, have me excused. And another said, I have bought 5 yoke of oxen, and I go to prove them. I pray thee, have me excused. Another said, I have married a wife, and therefore I cannot come. She wouldn't let him. Y'all know how that is, right? So that servant came and showed his Lord these things. Then the master of the house, being angry, said to his servant, Go out quickly into the streets and lanes of the city, and bring in hither the poor and the maimed and the halt and the blind. And the servant said, Lord, it is done as thou hast commanded, and yet there is room. And the Lord said unto the servant, Go out into the highways and hedges, and compel them to come in, that my house may be filled. For I say unto you that none of those men which were bidden shall taste of my supper. And there went great multitudes with him. And he turned and said unto them, and we'll stop. Oh, no, let's read a little further. If any man come to me and hate not his father and mother and wife and children and brethren and sisters, yea, and his own life also, he cannot be my disciple. And whosoever doth not bear his cross and come after me cannot be my disciple. Let's pray. Father, now we need you. Give us open hearts to receive your word. Holy Spirit, would you meet with us? Lord, some of us maybe need to be encouraged, and give those that encouragement they need. Lord, some of us need to be rebuked by you, and help us to receive that. Father, whatever the need of our heart is, we're counting on you to supply it and meet it. Lord, help us to be obedient to it. In Jesus' name, amen. So Jesus, he had been, if you read the verses preceding this passage, he had been teaching about humility and not looking for seats of higher honor. He had also spoke of doing things for those who cannot return the favor, so to speak. Now he comes to a story about a man that made a great feast. Evidently, this was a man of means. Evidently, this was a man of plenty, for he had invited many people, a great feast. He invited many people. Those who were invited initially made excuses to why they couldn't come. He had sent out the invitations to many of the people. I'm going to have this great feast. Maybe it was a wedding. The Bible doesn't clearly say in this passage. So he sends the servants out and says, hey, go, I'll send them the invitations. Go tell them it's time. Man, we've got a spread laid out. The food is ready. It's warm. Go tell them that all things are ready to come on. He goes to one man, and the man said, oh, man, that is today. You know what? I just bought a piece of land, and I need to go take a look and see what kind of land it is. I'm sorry, I won't be able to make it. Goes to another guy, and the guy said, oh, man, you know, I would love to be there, and I know, boy, he can really throw a great feast, but I just bought 5 yoke of oxen. I need to go see how capable they are of doing the work. Tell him I won't be able to make it. Goes to another man, and that man says, oh, look, I just got married, and it's not just me anymore, it's my wife. I won't be able to make it. They began, the Bible said, with one consent to make excuses. The servant comes back and he said, Master, I went to those people, and these said that they couldn't come, and here were their excuses. He sends the servant, he says, hey, look, I want you to go into the streets, go into the lanes of the city. I want you to invite the poor, invite the maimed, invite the halt, invite the blind, those that others would not invite to their feast. And by the way, boy, what a passage to describe the bus ministry right here. Go out and invite those that others would not even want in the church. he goes and he invites in the cities and the streets and the lanes and says, hey, my master's made a feast and all of you are welcome to come. And boy, some of them, he goes, okay, yeah, we'll come. And then some obviously did not come. And the servant comes back to his master. He says, Master, I've done what you've said, and there's still room in my house, in the house. He said, then go out of the city, go into the countryside, go into the highways and the hedges, and compel them. Restrained by force. Beg them, oh, please, you've got to come. My master, he's prepared this big feast, and he's wanting to do this great thing, and won't you come? He said, I want my house to be full. But those who had been invited in the beginning, they made excuses. We see at the end of this story where the master said, those that were invited, they made excuses. They will not taste of my supper. They're going to miss out. Man, I had a spread like they've never had. Man, I had some shrimp over here, and boy, I had some porterhouse steaks and cooked just the way they liked, and the mashed potatoes and the gravy and boy, everything, some mushroom gravy, praise God, and boy, had everything that they could want. Boy, I found out their favorite desserts. And man, we have banana pudding and carrot cake and German chocolate cake and apple pie and ice cream. Oh, we had all the some of you licking your lips already. You're wanting out of here already, aren't you? Said, man, I had it all laid out. And boy, not only that, this feast, boy, I was going to give them some gifts. But oh, I tell you what, they'll not take part of it. They have missed out. Excuses. In Luke chapter 14, verse 18, says, and they all with one consent began to make excuse. Now let me explain something. There's a far difference between an excuse and a reason. Okay? Brother Miller was telling me this morning, an excuse is just the skin of a reason stuffed with a lie. Been a long time since I've heard that. A reason is something legitimate. However, an excuse can be described as a pretext that men present so that they can soothe their conscience while shunning a duty. That excuse is when you tell your son, take out that trash. And you come back later and you say, why did you not take out the trash? Well, you know, I was about to. And then they start thinking hard. But I went to get up and had a Charlie horse in my leg. Yeah, that's it. That's why it was. And my leg, it felt like it was about to have a cramp, and I was scared to stand up on it. And I tell you what, you know what that is? That's just an excuse. That's just an excuse. An excuse is, hey, we missed you at church Sunday. Yeah, you know, I was going to come, but my car was broke down. Oh, that sounds like a good reason, right? Except for the fact they had 3 others that ran fine. And that one had been broken down for 2 years and was on blocks. Doesn't even have an engine in it. And they stayed home to replace the wiper blades so that they could say, I worked on the car. Now, what is that? That's an excuse. All right. Another definition of an excuse is a preference of that which is second rate to that which is of supreme importance. That's an excuse. Well, I know that I should have done this, but I wanted to do this, and it becomes an excuse. Those that were invited and declined, there's no doubt that they did not doubt the existence of the master. They didn't say, well, you know, I'm not sure if there's really a master over there in that palace. No, they knew he was there. They didn't express any doubt that there was indeed a banquet. Yeah, I'm sure that I've heard about those banquets, and I'm sure that he has a great feast that he wants to offer me. But you know, it's not going to fit in my schedule. It's kind of inconvenient. I really had my heart set on something else today. They didn't doubt that there was a feast. Doesn't seem that they expressed any doubt that there was an invitation. They don't say, are you sure that I was invited? No, they knew, okay, I've been sent the invitation. Here's the invitation to come to this banquet, to this feast. and I know that there's a great feast, and I know there's a master, then why didn't they go? This man evidently was a man of means. I mean, he wasn't just the neighbor around the block. He didn't just live in the house next door. Evidently, this was a man of means, for he invited people of means, and he invited many people. The Bible says it was a great feast. No doubt he must have been a powerful man. No doubt that maybe he was an influential man. And what an opportunity this would be. Come to my master's house. He's got a feast for you. The problem boiled down to what was important to these folks. The problem boiled down to what it was their heart was set on. They began to give excuses. The first one says, hey, I must needs go. I just bought a piece of land, and I've got to go see what it's like. It's an excuse, apparently, of necessity. I must needs go. Well, this is something I've really got to do. Hey, there's a problem here. Now, most people look at the land before they buy it, don't they? And if he bought it, and now he needs to look at it, well, he could look at it any time. It's his now. The affairs of this world press the Christian so much that we don't have time to serve the Lord. One of the great excuses is, well, I would love to do more for God, but I need to. No, listen. There's something we need to do more than serve God. There's something we need to do more than live out this Christianity. One of the great problems with our nation is that it's full of saved people that aren't Christians. It's full of people that will say, I love you, God, but I'm going to do my own thing. It's full of those who feel the churches that they're selfish in their deeds and with their life. And by the way, if you're a child of God, it is not your life any longer. You've been bought with the price, which was the blood of Jesus Christ. This life belongs to Him. And do you think you actually know what's best for yourself more so than God does? We become so busy with the affairs of this world that we don't have time to even read the Bible. We don't have time to pray. We don't have time to serve Him by serving others. His possessions, this man that made the first excuse, his possessions meant more to him than the banquet or than the host of the banquet. To some, the enjoyment of worldly possessions is more important to them than the enjoyment of God's blessings. You catch that? There are some that the enjoyment of the worldly possessions are far more important to them than the enjoyment of the blessings that God has for them if they will yield themselves to Him and just serve Him. And by the way, let me make clear, when I'm talking about serving God, I'm not just talking about here at the church. I'm not talking about just showing up for a service. I'm not talking about just singing in the choir. Those are great things, and that's definitely part of the Christian life. But I'm talking outside these buildings. Remember, I said a few weeks ago, the greatest part of our ministry as Christians is not in here. It is outside of these walls. The greatest part of your obligation as a child of God is at your home. The greatest part of your obligation as a child of God to serve God and live for God is where you work. The greatest part of your obligation of serving God and ministering the gospel to others, it's in that neighborhood. It's at the grocery store. It's at the gas station. It's at the schools. Why don't we serve Him more than we do? Oh, there's all these other things I need to do. And listen, there are some legitimate things we need to do. But many of those things we need to do, we can include Christ in those things. It's not like we have to say, okay, God, I've got to go to the grocery store. You're going to have to wait here. Or, Lord, I'm going to the grocery store. Can you come with me? Because I want to keep serving you even while I'm at the grocery store. God, I'm getting ready to go to work. I'm going to have to face the world at work. So, God, you're going to have to stay here. I'll pick you up later. No. God, I'm going to work. I sure need you to come with me because I want to reflect Christ. I want to tell them about Christ. I want to behave myself like Christ. I want my words to be pure words like the words of Christ. I want my deeds to be pure deeds like the deeds of Christ. Oh, God, I want you to come on with me and serve Him even there. Oh, well, I've got to do this and I've got to do this. The second excuse. Oh, look, I've bought 5 oxen and I go to prove them. This is an excuse of selfishness here. At least the first guy said, well, there's something I need to do. This is what I'm going to do. This is what I want to do. By the way, he could have proved those oxen any time. Didn't have to do it right then. He basically said, I want to do whatever it is that is tickling my fancy at the moment. I know that here's something I need to do, that this is what God would have me to do, and whether it be at the church or away from church is of no consequence here, but I want to do this, but here's something I really want to do right here. The third gave excuse. I've married a wife and therefore I cannot come. This also was just a petty excuse, for you see, he could have taken his wife with him. We allow the affection of other things to rob us of our affection for the Lord. Hey, listen, Brother Minahan, you know who the most important lady in this world is? Who is it, brother? Good answer. His wife. I disagree with you. I think it's that lady right there. Brother George, who's the most important lady in this world? That one right there? We have a disagreement here. We'll have to fight it out. Now, that's the right answer for you, not for me. Mine's still back there. Okay. George, your wife calls you. Hey, George, I just had a flat tire. I'm on the side of the road in a bad part of town. Say, okay, I'm going to come help you. I'll be there. I'm going to get out of this deer stand in about 2 hours. And I'll be there. George, you do that, you're an idiot. George loves deer hunting. Is that right, George? Brother Minahan loves deer hunting. Is that right? I love deer eating. I'd rather eat them than hunt them. I like to hunt them, but I'd much rather eat them than hunt them. He loves it. Let me tell you something, George. Your affection for deer hunting better never rob you of your affection for that lady right there, or you're going to be a lonely deer hunter. Yeah, we do that with God. God, I know you want me to do this, and here's an opportunity to serve you, and here's an opportunity to commit myself to serve you. But, oh, God, I want to keep my options open because, there may be some times that I want to do this, and there may be some times I want to do this. I've heard people say, let's use the bus ministry, for instance. Well, I'd like to help on the bus ministry, but I don't want to, you know the word? That's a scary word, isn't it? I don't want to, what is it? Commit. How about choke on the word? I don't want to commit to something that might please God. I don't want to commit to something that's going to bring the unfortunate or the less fortunate to church. I don't want to commit to the thing that dollar for dollar wins more people to Christ than anything else. I don't want to commit. Why? We say this because I'm afraid I won't be able to be faithful. Well, there's only one thing that can keep us from being faithful, and that is a greater love for something else. Well, I might not be able to be there every week. Well, we understand that. You're human. We can still be faithful. We allow the things of this world, the affections of other things, to rob us of our affections for the Lord. Let me do some translating for you, okay? Whenever some of my friends come to visit this area from Charlotte, sometimes I have to translate. Like if somebody says something about, oh, that's in the boot. I say that they're talking about the trunk of the car. People say, what you looking? What are you looking for? Okay. Will you mash that button? Mash it. They mean, will you press the button, okay, on the elevator. I do a little translating. Let me give you some excuses that are often used, and let's translate them into what they really mean. When it comes to serving God, sometimes we say, I don't have time. I'm too busy. And by the way, if you're too busy to serve God, you are too busy. I don't have the time. Translation, I have something more important to do. We may not like that, but that's what we mean many times. Matthew 6:19, though, says this, lay not up for yourselves treasures upon earth, where moth and rust doth corrupt, and where thieves break through and steal, but lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust doth corrupt, and where thieves do not break through or steal. For where your treasure is, there will your heart be also. Hey, and if your treasure is, okay, God, the thing I treasure most is your approval, and the thing I treasure most is your blessings, and the thing I treasure most is walking close with you in a relationship with you, then guess what? That's where your heart will be. Oh, if your treasure is, oh, Lord, the thing I treasure most is, boy, that big 10-pointer I just saw the other day. And I'm just using deer hunting as an illustration. I have nothing against deer hunting. I love hunting myself. I love to hunt. Here's another one. Well, I know that's all good, but that's just not me. That's just not me. I know I ought to tell people about Christ, but that's just not me. I know we had that Bible quiz where man memorized 3 chapters, or some of 3 chapters in some of our cases. Memorize the Scripture in the Bible, and someone says, no, that memorization stuff, that's just not me. What does that mean? Listen, by the way, before I tell you what it means, that's very similar to the excuse Moses used on Mount Sinai. When God said, Moses, there's my people, I've heard them, and I want you to go back and tell Pharaoh to let my people go. And Moses said, oh, Lord, I'm not eloquent. Oh, Lord, I'm not a good speaker, Lord, that's just not me. Well, listen, 1 Corinthians 1:27 says this, but God hath chosen the foolish things of the earth, of the world, to confound the wise. And God hath chosen the weak things of the world to confound the things which are mighty. And base things of the world, and things which are despised hath He chosen, yea, and things which are not, to bring to naught things that are. You know what that excuse is? Well, that's just not me. Here's the translation. I'm more concerned about what would make me comfortable than what would please God. That's an excuse. Well, that's just not me. And Moses said, oh, Lord, that's not me. And God said, hey, Moses, listen. I've chosen you because of your weakness. I've chosen you because of your insufficiency. And in that, I know my strength will be made perfect and that my glory will be seen. Well, that's just not me. Then, hey, God might be able to use you more than somebody that could say, yeah, that's me. Listen, God called me to preach. Scared me to death. Because that's just not me, folks. Be honest. By nature, when I was young, listen, I couldn't get in front of people and talk. I know now you're saying, now you can't shut up, preacher. You want me to get out of here. Hey, I'd get up in English class. Anybody remember getting up in English or literature and having to quote poems and book reports and all that? Oh, brother. Man alive, I'd get up there. I'd begin to tremble. Somebody'd make a face at me and I'd just start laughing. I mean, laughing to where I could not speak. The teacher would say, Ronnie, do you need to be excused to gain your composure? I'd go out. I'd come back in. And man, it didn't matter how good I knew that poem. I wouldn't be able to remember it. Because I was scared to death. 2 rows diverged in a yellow wood. And I would have to keep looking for a teacher for help. Made horrible grades on those quotations. You know why? Because it just wasn't me. And God spoke to my heart one day and led me to believe that, hey, He wants me to be a preacher. He wants me to preach. And, oh, Lord, you got the wrong man. First time I got to preach, y'all probably heard me say it, the first time I got a whole service to preach at my church, I preached, I was so scared. I got up here at the microphone, I began to pray, and when I finished, I said, in Jesus' name, man, right in the microphone. Loud. I was scared to death, legs shaking. Hey, I got up there to preach. I preached through my whole outline in 3 minutes. I looked at the clock and thought, man, that's not good. So I went back through it again, and in 8 minutes total, I was done, invitation and everything, and the people shaking my hand saying, man, that was great. Then why are you preaching? By the way, I still get nervous when I preach. That's probably why I ramble on sometimes. I get nervous. That's why I make so many mistakes and tell you to read, turn to one chapter of the Bible, and I turn to a different one. That's why I've been known to, once in a while, leave my notes in the office and say, time out, let me go get my notes. And why are you preaching? Because it's not about my comfort. It's about pleasing Him. How about this one? This is actually a legitimate reason rather than an excuse. Sometimes we turn it into an excuse. Well, I would serve God more, but I need to spend time with my family. Well, no, there's nothing wrong with that. We all spend time with our family. That's part of what we're supposed to do. It's part of God's will for us. And it's a legitimate claim to a very important responsibility, but when it's overused, it becomes nothing less than an excuse and idolatry. Here's what the translation, my family needs all of my time, the Lord doesn't need any. Luke 14:26, if any man come to me and hate not his father and mother and wife and children and brethren and sisters, yea, and his own life also, he cannot be my disciple. I'm sure when Jesus said that, He was thinking back to Deuteronomy chapter 6, verse 5, where it says, and thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thine heart and with all thy soul and with all thy might. With all that is within me, He should be the preeminent one. He should be above all things in my life. Every part of my life ought to be touched by Him. Oh, I can't do that. We say this. Let's use soul winning as an illustration right here, okay? Well, I don't want to offend anybody. They might not want to hear what I have to say. What we're saying basically, well, I'll tell you that in a minute. You're not going to like that one, that translation. What about those that do want to hear? What about the ones that are out there looking for truth, that are begging, I need something. My life is empty. I've tried everything else. I've got to have something. That something is Christ. Matthew 11:15, Jesus said, he that hath ears to hear, let him hear. You know, there were people that didn't want to hear what Jesus had to say either. But He said it. There were some people that did want to hear. By the way, let me tell you, Jeremiah the prophet, nobody wanted to hear what he had to say. Why did he keep saying it? At one point he said, I won't say it anymore. I'm not going to say His name. George, he said, I'm not even going to speak the Lord's name anymore. Selfish people, they don't want to hear it. After a little time of not even speaking the Lord's name, he said, I couldn't stand it anymore. He said His word was shut up in my bones like a fire. And I had to let it out. I had to tell somebody. You know what we say with that excuse? I don't want to offend anybody. They may not want to hear what I have to say. Here's basically a translation, a loose translation of it. I do not like rejection, so I don't want to put myself in a position where I might experience it. I'm scared and a spiritual coward. I mean, let's just face it. I'm scared. Spiritually, I'm a coward. I don't want to face it. We say that about the one that gave Himself for us, who hung on a cross for us, was beaten and bled for us, whose beard was plucked for us, who wore a crown of thorns for us, whose hands and feet and side were pierced for us. Oh, well, I'm scared of what somebody might think. Who cares as long as you're telling the truth? As long as I'm pleasing Christ, nothing else should matter. We just use it as an excuse. By the way, I'll be honest, I go out knocking on doors. I'll be honest, I'm usually a little scared, I guess you could say. You don't seem like it, preacher. I'm not going to let the fear rule me. Oh, man, I'm going to let you in on a little secret of mine, okay? I'm scared of dogs. I am. Scared of dogs. When I was young, I got bit bad by a dog. I was walking around in Ron World. I mean, I was in some neighborhood, but I was in my own world, walking around. I was about 8 or 9, just walking around. Walked on somebody else's property, right in front of their dog house. Big old dog knocked me down. Laid into my back, son. I still got a scar back there. Y'all aren't hearing me, are you? I got bit real bad by a dog. There, okay, I was looking for a little sympathy. Thank you. Man, you got to pull the sympathy out. It's not sincere. Got bit by that dog. I'm a little nervous around dogs. My son Levi, he used to be really bad, scared around dogs. When we first got here, me and Kevin Hayes were out soul winning. Had Levi with me. Went to the store. He knew the lady. We walked in the house. She had one of them little dogs with the curly hair. What kind of dog? What is it? Yeah, little poodle. Little old poodle. I think it was a poodle. Looked kind of like some effeminate dog. And little. And that walked in that thing. And boy, Levi was like. And I said, come sit down, son. No, I'm fine. I'm fine. And that dog's sitting there looking at us. Levi's standing there in front of the screen door. That dog said, "Ay, ay!" And then I heard the screen door close. I looked and Levi was nowhere around. It was like a magic trick. He was gone. Same way, I'm nervous around dogs. I told somebody that recently. They said, preacher, I've seen you around dogs. You don't seem nervous. You don't seem scared of dogs. Because I'm not going to let the fear rule me. We have this fear of, well, I'm afraid of what somebody might say. Afraid of what somebody might do. I tell you what scares me more than anything is standing before God and finding that He was displeased with me. Boy, more than anything, I long to stand before Him one day and hear those words, well done, thy good and faithful servant. Ronnie, you did it. This is Ronnie Wise, the one that we cheered because he led somebody to Christ. Boy, you did a great job, Ronnie. Come on in. That's what I want to hear. Oh, the thought of hearing him say, come on in. You made it, but that's it. When he goes out to hand out them crowns and them trophies for our service for him, and him say, Ronnie, here's a gold coin. That's about all you got. Disappointing God is a greater fear to me than what others may say. We say this, I don't have the natural abilities that it takes to do this. I didn't either. I don't have the natural abilities to be a preacher or a pastor. What we're saying when we say that is the God I serve is weak, is a weak God and is not able to use me to do great things even though He said He could. That's what we say. That's what we mean. This once again goes hand in hand with what Moses said. Moses said in Exodus 4:10, and Moses said unto the Lord, O my Lord, I'm not eloquent, neither heretofore nor since thou hast spoken unto thy servant, but I am slow of speech and of a slow tongue. God, I can't do this. I don't have those natural abilities. And then God says in verse 11, and the Lord said unto him, who hath made man's mouth? Who maketh the dumb or deaf or the seen or the blind? Have not I the Lord? Moses, I made you, and I'm calling you, and I'm commanding you. This is what I want you to do. Listen, God's commands are God's enablings. Whatever God has commanded us to do, He will enable us to do. We say, well, this is not my spiritual gift. I do believe that some people are gifted spiritually in other areas more than some, maybe. But listen, 2 Timothy 3:16 says, all Scripture is given by inspiration of God and is profitable for doctrine, for reproof, for correction, for instruction in righteousness, that the man of God may be perfect, thoroughly furnished unto all good works. Not just to some good works. The Word of God was given us to furnish us. What we're saying when we say, well, that's not my spiritual gift. One preacher told my pastor, he said, well, my spiritual, that soul winning stuff, that's not my spiritual gift. God didn't call me to be a soul winner. Oh, beg to differ with you, sir. He's called all of us to be soul winners. Some may be better at it than others, but He called us all to be soul winners. What we're saying is, well, I just don't care about whatever. We say, I do want to serve Him more, but I'm real busy and a body needs its rest. What we're saying there, let me translate, I'm spiritually lazy. Told you this wouldn't be in your top 10, would it? Listen, Proverbs 22:13, a slothful man saith, there's a lion without, I shall be slain in the streets. Paints a picture of this man, he's laying in bed, it's about 10 o'clock in the morning. Somebody says, hey man, you're sleeping your life away. Or my dad, he used to always say, you're sleeping your life away, get up, come on, let's get some work done. He says, oh, no. And I rolled over about an hour ago and I heard something else. There's a lion out there. I think there's a lion out there. I'm going to wait a while. The Bible doesn't say that there was a lion in the way. It says the slothful man said there was. You know what he was doing? He was making an excuse to cover up his laziness. We say, I'm worried what people think of me. So were the Pharisees in John 12:43, and that's why they denied Christ, even though they knew He was the Messiah. It says, for they love the praise of men more than the praise of God. We're saying with that excuse, I'm more concerned about pleasing people than I am about pleasing God. Now listen, I know some in here will say, made it through. He didn't say my excuse. This passage here, God sends an invitation. He sends an invitation to the lost. He says, come unto me, all you that labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Yet the lost many times will make excuse after excuse of why not to get saved. I've talked to many that said, yeah, I know I'm going to hell. I know I need to be saved. But I'm not going to do it right now. Why not? Because I don't think I can live it. No, none of us can live it. We're all imperfect. Well, I don't know if I'm ready. Are you ready to go to hell? Well, no. Then why aren't you ready to be saved? Make all kinds of... Don't make excuse. But this morning, I'm not just talking about the lost. It also speaks of service. He says in that next verse, take my yoke upon you and learn of me. A yoke implies service. Let me ask you something this morning, church. This is not God's will for you. Or it may be a part, you come and you sit down on Sunday morning in the pew. Well, that's good. That's a good thing. God wants us to meet as a church. We're not to forsake the assembling ourselves together as the manner of some is. That's good. But this isn't all He wants you to do. He wants you to get busy. Doing something for Him. There is more to do around here than we have enough people to do. Not just in this church, but in this community. People often say to him, Pastor, you take too much on yourself. You shouldn't do so much. Wouldn't have to if so many people didn't offer excuses. Preacher, hey, here's something. Matthew, people come to, preacher, hey, I just thought of this new ministry, man. This is a great idea. Preacher, listen, we got to do this. Hey, shake my hand, man. Okay. I was wanting to make sure you was awake. Preacher, we got to do that. Here's this ministry. They give me this idea. And I was like, man, that is an excellent idea. I thought it would be. I think the Lord gave me that. Man, that is great. Can you head it up? Can you get it started? Well, now, preacher, I was thinking the Lord gave me that to tell you so that maybe you could do that. If that was the case, He would have told me. You know what I'm saying? Began to make excuses. I wonder if the disciples had made excuses. It's dangerous out there living for Christ. They're taking people's heads off. They're feeding them to wild animals. I wonder if later they would have been known as the men that turned the world upside down. I wonder if they were making excuses, but they have seen God's mighty hand at work among them. Let's go back a little further in time. What if Christ had made excuses? See, He's there in the Garden of Gethsemane, and He's praying, and He's agonizing in prayer, and the Bible says He began to sweat, as it were, great drops of blood as those capillaries ruptured in His skin, and the blood came out through the pores of His skin and mingled with the sweat and ran down and soaked His robe. What if He would say, God, I want to please You, but this is going to be painful. This is going to be humiliating. This is not exactly what I was signing up for, God. I'm glad he wasn't making excuses. I'm glad he had the attitude, who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross. He made no excuses. He just came and got the job done. How about it, church? What excuses are you using to not tell those coworkers about Christ? What excuses are you using to not live as a Christian in your home? What excuses are you using, hey, young person, at school to not live in such a way that when you talk about Christ, people say, boy, I know they believe it. What excuses are you using? We could use help on the buses. What excuses are you using? We could use help in the nursery, ladies. What excuses are you using? We could use help in junior church and in Sunday school classes. We could use help reaching others for Christ, soul winning. We, oh my goodness, there's so much that can be done for God. Or are you like those three men mentioned over there? They with one consent began to offer excuse. Someone said this, all the reasons that are given come to one and the same thing. Occupation with present interest, duties, possessions, or affections. As opposed to an occupation with Jesus Christ. Being focused on Him. He's invited you. If you're lost, He said, hey, come to me. I died for you. I want to save your soul. Just come place your faith in me. What excuses are you using to not trust Him? Hey, child of God, you've trusted Christ. He says, okay, come on, put my yoke on you. I want you to serve me. The works that I did, you'll do greater works. I want you to serve me. Come on. What excuses are you using to keep from serving Him? Bow your head, close your eyes, please.